So that's the question, that isn't it injustice when the right of divorce is only given to the man and not to the woman? If you realize the way Islamic marriage takes place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah says in the Quran, it's mentioned in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 40. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is never unjust in the least degree. And the Quran says in Surah Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 228, that the women have rights as against them, on terms equitable, but the men have a degree of advantage. So overall, the Quran says the men and women are equal, but some places they have a degree of advantage. And on the other hand, there are hadiths which the Prophet said that if respect the mother more, so the women have a degree of advantage. But this aspect, why do the men have a degree of advantage? The reason is that when a marriage takes place, one of the criteria besides the agreement of both the would-be husband and wife, there is a concept of meher. That it's compulsory, as the Quran says in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse number 4, that gift to the economic status, that means meher, is compulsory for a marriage to solemnize. So when a meher is given, the would-be wife can demand what she wants. And the Quran says in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse number 20, you can even give a mountain of gold. So imagine when a marriage takes place, it is the man who is in loss economically. He gives meher. Now once he gives the meher, if suppose the right is given to the woman to divorce and she divorces, who would be the loser? Who would be the man? And in case if a divorce takes place, the girl can marry again. When she marries, she gets a new meher. Here, if the man marries, he has to give a new meher. So therefore economically the woman is secured. So based on this, generally by default, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the right to the man to divorce. And furthermore, the Quran says in Surah Nisa chapter 4, verse number 34, Ar-Rijalu Qawwamun 'ala Nisa, that the men are the supporters of the women. For Allah has given one strength more than the other. So based on this, because man is the Qawwam, he is the leader in the family, but naturally by default, the right to divorce goes to the man, because he is the one who looks after the family, etc. But that does not mean a woman cannot demand the rights. During Nikah-Nama, if she wishes, she can put a condition that I too want a right to divorce. Because by default it goes to the man, but if the husband wants to give that right even to the would-be wife, he can give. So in the Nikah-Nama, if the would-be wife wants to put a condition, and if the husband agrees, she can put a condition, so both will have the right. But otherwise, by default, without any rules and regulation, the right goes to the man. Otherwise, I'll have to give a talk on men's rights in Islam. Hope that answers the question, sister. Any other sister has any questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is it encouraged to marry within the same community, like Konknis marry only Konknis?
Sister has a question that, is it encouraged for a girl or a boy to marry within the same community, like Konkni marrying Konkni, or Memon marrying Memon? We only got stuck to Konkni, because I'm a Konkni. So it can go Sheikh marrying a Sheikh, or a Sayyid marrying a Sayyid. So realize the beloved Prophet Muhammad said, it's preferable to marry the same type of people, same category, whether it may be in category in terms of ethnicity, whether it may be in terms of economic status, whether it be in terms of community, because the compatibility is there. Because the Konkani have a different style of living, the Memon have a different style of living, the Keralite may have a different style of living, the person, UK American person, a different style of living, the European may have. So it's easy to gel. So it is preferable, but not a fard. Similarly, imagine an African marrying a European. It can go well, not it's not possible. It's possible, but the chances of compatibility is less. Similarly, a Chinese coming and marrying someone from Kerala, not that it's not possible, it's possible, but if you want to break this barrier for a cause, for example, I am finding a more virtuous non-Konkani, then I prefer marrying a non-Konkani than marrying a Konkani. For in my case, I could not leave aside Konkani, I could not get a girl from Bombay who I wanted a virtuous, so I had to go to Pune. I had to travel 160 miles. So I not only left the community, I left the city also. So your reason to marry was virtue. So if virtue is the criteria, if you break these barriers of economic status, of nobility, of community, of ethnicity, there's no problem. Otherwise, generally, if exactly same virtues, who is from your community, not from your community, preferable, same virtues from your community. Same virtues who's rich and who's poor, and if you are rich, then same virtues who's rich is preferable. But if you find that one person more virtuous and out of the community is preferable, that one person is more important than matching your community or matching your ethnicity or matching your economic status. But if the virtue is not the criteria, otherwise marrying in the same level is preferable, so that life becomes easier. So when you have a choice to choose the easy part, it's preferable to choose the easy part than the difficult. But that does not mean, because normally in Indian culture it's very common, Kokni should marry a Kokni, 99%. Memon should marry Memon. A Kerala Malayali should marry a Malayali. And that's the reason, they look for this criteria more important than virtue. Yes, I want virtue, but should be a Kokni. I want a virtuous girl, but should be a Memon. So this is just for saying they're more looking for their community rather than virtue. So virtue should be given the most important. Hope that answers the questions. Are there any other questions?
Is it cultural or is it promoted in Islam to give preference to younger women for marriage, or to give preference to virgin over non-virgins, or to give preference over good-looking to average-looking women?
Sister has the question that is it cultural in Islam, is it preferable in Islam to marry younger women as compared to elder women, to marry more beautiful women as compared to average looking women, or more wealthier than poor? Is it preferable? It is mubah. Because if you go to the history of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the first woman that Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam married, Hazrat Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, she was 15 years elder to the Prophet. The Prophet was 25 years old, Hazrat Khadija was 40 years old. And later on, he had only one wife, till the age of 50, 52, until Hazrat Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, she expired. And only after she expired did the Prophet marry. And after that when he married the girls that were younger, 36 years old, 32 years old, etc. But preference over young in age, here you have an example, the first marriage is 15 years older, the next marriage is younger. You have example that the Prophet, the first wife he did, Hazrat Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, she was a widower, so she wasn't a virgin. Amongst all the wives, only one wife was virgin. Otherwise all the others, they were not virgins. They were either widow or they were divorcees. But that does not mean it is sunnah to marry a non-virgin. Then there will be a problem. But in the life of the Prophet gave various examples. Rich, her Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, she was very rich. The other ladies that the Prophet married, some were poor. So Prophet had an example of rich women, he married poor women, elderly women, younger women, virgin, non-virgin. More were divorcees and they were widows. So here you find that cross-section, according to me, it's mubah. But it's a personal choice. As the Prophet said, as I mentioned earlier, according to the hadith of Sahih Bukhari, volume number 7, in the book of Nikah, hadith number 5090, that the beloved Prophet ﷺ said, that when a person marries, he looks for 4 things: beauty, wealth, nobility and virtue. And amongst them, virtue is the best. So if someone looks for beauty, it's not haram. Someone wants a younger wife, it's not haram. Someone wants a wealthier wife, it's not haram. Someone wants a noble wife, it's not haram. But amongst them, virtue is the best. So more important is the virtue. If you find a virtuous wife and she is less beautiful, it's preferable to marry a less beautiful wife than who's less virtuous. So virtuous wife who's less beautiful is preferable than more beautiful and less virtuous. So all these things, virtue carries more weight. But Islamic, there's nothing like which is preferable in the other criteria. As far as virtuous is concerned, it is preferable for sure. Hope that answers the questions. Are there any sisters that have any questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What is the duty of the daughter to her parents after marriage? Should she obey them or her husband?
So there's the question that what is the duty of a daughter to her parents after she married? Should she obey the husband or the parents? I feel she should obey both. The best is obey both. But if there is a conflict, who is more important? But naturally before marriage, obeying the parents is most important. After marriage also it's important, but once she gets married, she goes to a different family. So if there is a conflict between both, we have to see that who is more on the Quran and Sunnah. Is it the husband or is it her parents? So based on that she makes the decision. But if both are neutral, both are not against the Quran and Sunnah, then you try and convince either of them that to change their views so that you can follow both your parents and satisfy your husband. But if there is really a conflict and both are not against Quran and Sunnah and yet, so but naturally the tilt goes more towards the husband after marriage. Little bit more because you have a family to look after, but that does not mean you neglect your parents, you disobey your parents. Only if the conflict is such that both are on the Quran and Sunnah and then you have to choose between one of them. So it's preferable you satisfy both. As a last resort, if you have to take a balance, but now the balance tilts more towards the husband because he becomes your immediate family, not that your parents are not. But at the same time, if you can convince your husband and yet obey your parents, that is the best. Hope that answers the question.